Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second week of the 17th International Keyboard Institute and Festival in New York City, which is held for the first time at Hunter College in K Playhouse on the campus here at Hunter College. It has been a very, very exciting week already. We've had tremendous concerts. My name is Eduard Zilberkant, and I'm joined this evening by Claire Huangci. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And last night we had a wonderful performance with the Jägermeister Chamber Orchestra. Congratulations,
Congratulations
on a wonderful concert. We really had a great time. And it, as I mentioned, it really has been an incredible week so far of what we've heard. The whole thing started with Jerome Rose, incredible recital, and he played quite a variety of pieces from Brahms to Schubert to Schumann and many other things.
Yeah, I find like the program for this festival this time has really encompassed like this whole broad range of pretty much every major staple of classical music.
Exactly.
The students as well as the faculty members, we've really been really spoiled with the concerts. So we're lucky that everything is available on archives.
Exactly. So we do urge you, if you've missed any part of the first week, that if you go to ikif.org/live, not only are you obviously watching tonight's performance, which will be a big gala by the faculty of this incredible festival, but all the other performances that you might have missed are being archived and put on there as well.
Yes.
So, for example, you can hear on the second concert we had Marc-André Hamelin, one of the sought-after pianists who played a really interesting program for us, and we had Magdalena Bajewska, a Polish pianist who has played the Goldberg variations both on the harpsichord and the piano, which was really...
I heard that hasn't been done since Rosalind Turok did it in Carnegie Hall
Exactly.
many years ago. So this was like history in the making.
Exactly. So we've repeated that here, and we had opportunity to hear that live. Of course, last night's the Jägermeister Orchestra concert, which with 3 piano concertos, 2 by Mozart and a Haydn, with Massimiliano Ferrati and Mattei Varga and Claire Huangci on the pianos. So with the famous Genome concerto, it was very exciting. There was tremendous energy in the hall. And like I said, this evening we are here for the big gala with the faculty, and this is sort of always interesting because every day there are 120 pianists here who are students, I should say, who are here from all over the world, and we're all working with them and coaching them and everything. And sort of at this point the tables are turned.
Yeah, it's really a chance for us to kind of prove ourselves and to make sure that what we're saying is not in vain and we do what we preach.
Exactly. That's always something that you want to demonstrate to the students, and this is again the unique quality of this festival, and that is we don't just have teachers who just teach and don't really practice their craft. That every one of us here are performing artists. That we are constantly traveling, learning pieces, experimenting, doing all kinds of things that we demand from the students. And this is another way that this festival demonstrates what the real art of a pianist career is.
Yeah, it's really unique, I think, in terms of a festival. I mean, I've been to quite a few master classes and things, and there are not many where we have such an array of concerts, and particularly faculty concerts. Most of the time, we get our lessons, there's a final concert played by the participants, and basically, you're always surprised when you actually hear, like, oh, does the professor teach and actually play?
Exactly.
So this is definitely going to be interesting.
Exactly. And again, even this evening, we will have quite a variety of repertoire. We have everything from, I think we're starting with some Scriabin, and then of course the staples of Chopin, but then as well we will have some Messiaen.
Even some jazz.
And some jazz, exactly. Stephen Mayer, who's really famous for doing a lot of Art Tatum material and all of that. David Dubal will be here shortly, and he will be discussing a lot of what the program is going to be for this evening's performance, and then we will be back again at about quarter till the hour, right, about 15 minutes before the concert begins, and sort of touch on some of the things that maybe David has not covered or any of the other things. But again, this is such a unique event for New York, and it's such a unique festival, and it's now in its 17th year. I've been coming here for at least, I think, the last 10 years and dealing with. You've been here for a few years as far as...
I've only been here once as a young artist performer.
Great.
And that was back in Manus. This is the first time that we're in Hunter College, and I'm so happy. This is a really special experience for me to be in New York City for 2 weeks, and then to have the chance to really teach, to get to know the students. I mean, everyone has this kind of real thirst to learn. I mean, all the students, we have such an array. I mean, today I taught 2 amateurs, you know, who are really, obviously they have very good professions, and they're just really eager to work on their art, and this is it's exactly what we're all doing this for.
Exactly. And again, this is to let everybody know, yes, there are a lot of professional pianists here, students who have desires and goals to be the next Vladimir Horowitz and have a career and going forward with a career. But this is also a tremendous opportunity for teachers to come in and maybe, number one, observe how master teachers teach some of the pieces that they might have to work with some of their students, or something that they wanted to learn. And as Claire said, that there are some amateurs who are really amazing. They put a lot of time. They do have their own professions and they do many things, but they take the time and they really work hard and serious about it. And it really is gratifying to see how seriously and how meticulously they work at this craft. And they very much take in all the instruction, and they are very eager to do this.
Yeah, I think now, I mean, I'm a full-time pianist, and I think, like, would I really be able to do what they do, maybe with a whole different profession? And that's hard to imagine.
Exactly.
So I really appreciate what they're doing.
So again, if you are in the New York area or anywhere close by, you can certainly come by and buy a day pass and observe some. We still have one more week of festival going on with lots of classes and lots of coachings, and of course every night concerts. Some of the things that we're looking forward to this week, Nina Tishman is giving a recital tomorrow, which she will be playing a big Schubert sonata, and then she's doing the complete book 1 of Debussy Preludes, which is really wonderful piece, and some of the staples, a lot of pieces which a lot of students sometimes like to play. For example, the Engulfed Cathedral, very popular prelude, and then of course Minstrels, the last prelude of book 1. So there's all these wonderful pieces. Of course, one of the highlights of next week also will be a big recital by Alexander Kobrin. He's the winner of Van Cliburn competition, the Hamamatsu competition, was one of the top prize winners of the Chopin competition, was in the Busoni competition, really a remarkable pianist. And he's going to be doing a really big recital of varied repertoire.
Chopin, I think Scriabin,
a lot of Chopin.
So several of the Scriabin.
Exactly.
I remember specifically he's doing 2 Scriabin sonatas, number 2 and number 5, some of my favorites. And
I think Verslav Lam, again, we've heard it earlier as well. So that is going to be really a very interesting program. And again, this is an opportunity for you all, if you are in the New York area, to come out and hear this incredible artist live. But if you're not in the New York area, you can certainly tune in at ikif.org/live and hear all of these concerts, which are very, very interesting and very amazing. And again, you will have such an incredible variety of repertoire that is being presented throughout. Now, the other part, which is also very interesting of this festival, which basically is going to start on Thursday and go all the way to Sunday, which is right at the end of the festival, and that is the Mackenzie Prize. It's a big international competition, which is being offered to all the participants who've been here for the full 2 weeks. Yeah. And I know I've done competitions. You've certainly done competitions, yes. So you know the rigors of that. What is your opinion on competition? I mean, I know you've participated in many, and you've certainly won quite a few of some of the most prestigious ones. So.
I can only say that's a really big question, and that takes quite a lot of time. It's something that I'm happy that it's over, but it was such a big part of my life. I mean, it changed me. It kind of shaped the way I am today, and I think this is something that every young pianist, every aspiring musician needs to go through this stage in their life. I mean, competitions, basically, this is concert, but on steroids. You're put in this high-end pressure situation, and you have to be able to think on your feet, think on your fingers, whatever it is, and yeah, it's.
But it is very important. And for example, the opportunities that students get here, they have to prepare approximately close to, I think, hour 20 minutes worth of music. So almost an hour and a half of music. And international jury, comprised of some of the faculty here, will be observing this, and they can win. They combine almost $10,000 in prizes. But what's important about, in general, all competitions, I think it's an opportunity to show yourself, because, again, there are many competitions, and their winners constantly come up with it. But with the competitions, what you can sort of expect is this gives you opportunity to be on an international stage.
Yeah.
I remember
it introduces you to people.
Exactly, and I remember going to competitions. I purely looked at it as if I was in Leeds competition. Well, this is my English debut. I will come out in the first round. I will give my best recital, and if you win, great, and if you don't, okay, it doesn't matter.
Nowadays, I mean, we're really lucky because a lot of the competitions are now streamed live. And so even though if we don't pass or so, there's a record. And maybe someone is interested. I mean, just being in a competition is really a way to get your name out there.
Exactly. And it is important just to be recognized in that vein, because, again, there are many competitions, and a lot of times they're very subjective. In other words, there's sometimes politics involved, and sometimes there's other things involved. But in general, if you have on any given day a different set of juries, a different result with exactly the same type of playing, you will have very different result. That's why people will listen to say, oh, I wonder why he played or cut through or not. Well, I think we're being told that David Dubal is ready to start his pre-concert lecture, and we will see you in about half an hour with continuation. Thank you very much. We'll see you later.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Gachin Teal, and I'm the assistant to the festival directors, Jerome Rose and Julie Kadersha. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to the K Playhouse at Hunter College, and it's a real pleasure to welcome all of our viewers from around the world. It's an honor to have David Dubal with us. He's been with us for the entire festival this year, and since he started 17 years ago. As you all know, he's done many good things for classical music. He's done so much good, and I say that not only because he won an Emmy, and not only for the many famous books that he has written, which he actually wouldn't want me to mention, being humble. However, what I do know is that he's always been wonderful to me. On a personal note, I'm thankful to him for all the great work that he's done, not just for the festival, but for music in general. You can listen to his program, Reflections from the Keyboard, on WQXR, on Thursday nights at 8 p.m. and on Sunday nights at 10 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome David Dubal.
Thank you so much. You hear me? Okay, I want to again thank the staff here, because they're absolutely first-class technicians, and that's something I do know something about, being in radio for longer than you've been around on the planet. We won't have any little bits of music because we have so many performers, and I want to go through what the programs will be, maybe a note or two that you'll remember later on about a certain piece or whatever. You can come in, you can sit down, you can throw things at me, whatever you like. Yuan is not here, a great friend of mine and a student of mine. He had visa problems or something. And instead, we will have Dmitry Rachmanov playing Scriabin. And he's playing Scriabin because yesterday at 4 to 6, we had a wonderful Scriabin lecture at Lang Recital Hall where we talked and he played, and we had great recordings of Scriabin's music. And he's going to play today the Prelude in B major. It's an early work of Scriabin, and it's opus 16. And then he is going to play the one in G sharp minor, a favorite key of Scriabin. And it's exquisite, and he plays it beautifully. Then he'll go on and play a very unknown piece by Scriabin, but it's great. It's the Impromptu. And then we have a little etude from opus 42, composed in 1903. And sometimes it's called, because of the way it moves with its trills, the Mosquito Etude. One of the great things about it, if you don't like Scriabin, is that it's only 47 seconds long. Then we have, to cap off Dmitry Rachmanov's beginnings, the D sharp minor etude, very celebrated etude, and probably the most played of all of his music. I play it, he plays it, Horowitz plays it, and yesterday in our sensational lecture, it was performed by Scriabin himself, who I think is incredible. So we have Dmitry Rachmanov, who is, by the way, a splendid guy. I mean splendid. I know everyone here except 2 artists, and all of them are such special people. They all teach, and they are all working very hard to make this festival happen. Some of them are working 6 and 7 hours a day teaching, and Dmitry told me that he doesn't mind that at all because the students are so good from all over the place. Then Nina Lelchuk. Well, if you wanted to see Nina, or at least hear Nina and I, we're on YouTube in an interview I did with her many years ago, and she tells me that there's 1 billion hits on that. So, I mean, that's really 1 out of every 6 people in the world have watched us. I'm very pleased. I haven't heard it myself, but I mean, I want to be part of that great billion population. She's going to play a little, she's going to play the first nocturne, which is the D flat, one of the most luscious, be about 6 minutes, one of the most luscious melodies ever conceived, with an exquisitely dispersed left hand. It's actually a violinistic melody, and when you hear it transcribed sometimes for the violin, it's very laughable, because nothing Chopin ever wrote can go beyond the piano. Everything he writes is perfectly made for the evanescence of the tone and the pedal of the piano. She'll then play a little shorter one, which is, to me, also beautiful, so beautiful. It's F sharp major. My favorite performance of it is Joseph Hoffman. And I want to say that in the middle section, it reaches a kind of passion that I can call it passion pending, because Chopin is always so wonderful in the sense that he sometimes doesn't give it all. I see there's Mazurkas, the little one in C major is wonderful, but then she moves to the great C sharp minor Mazurka, opus 50, number 3. And this is a later work, and you will hear much counterpoint. You'll hear chromatic harmony and dissonance. C sharp minor is a very important key for Chopin in his Mazurkas, and the last piece she'll play is in C sharp minor. And if you will notice, Chopin wears his learning very lightly, because there's a magnificent canon at the octave at the end. I just point this out because you will hear some sort of contrapuntal Bachian moment, and that's him showing his great skill. But before that is a wonderfully earthy work, the F sharp minor, and before that, one of the great ones in A minor. It's I would say, one of the most difficult interpretively. So she really has given us some beautiful nocturnes. A favorite person of mine is the Ukrainian-born Mykola Suk, and he's next on, and he's in Las Vegas teaching there. He once had me out there, and we had a great time. There was an immense audience of music lovers. I think 14 people came, but they were really great people. And most of all, Mykola taught me how to gamble properly, and I left. He didn't even have to give me any fee from Las Vegas University because I won actually $1 million. Yeah, and I used that to perpetuate all the evils that are in my life. I haven't given it to charity, that's for certain. Mykola is a great man, by the way, and he's going to play the 12th Rhapsody. Speaking of who played that wonderfully, it was Arthur Rubinstein would come out, he would sit like this, he would just take his hand, fix his little tie, and begin. Mykola is a great pianist. I've had him on my show in Bartók, in Beethoven, and so forth. So get ready for that, and then you will have an intermission, and then comes, I really like this guy just as much almost. I say that because he's going to tell me later on, what do you mean almost? Jose Ramos Santana. And I always call him Santana, and he always says Santana. He is going to give us 3 pieces from the Iberia. Albeniz is one of the three great Spanish nationalists, and he's born in 1860. He doesn't live long. He dies of what they called then Bright's disease, a kidney disease. And his last work from 1906 till the end of his life is his most important. As he said, all of his other music was trash. This is not true, but I understand what he means. His great works, the 4 books of the Iberia. And we're going to hear a wonderful Rondena, and then the first of the Iberia, the Evocation, slow, smoldering, wondrous work in 7 flats, hard to read and harder to play in its slow motion. It is so wondrous. And then we have that great piece, the most famous of Book 1, Triana. What a piece it is. Now, another friend of mine, and he's been a friend for a long time, his father is a great composer. If you don't know him, his name is William Mayer, and he must be coming close to 90 years old, still going strong. And Stephen Mayer is a great teacher, a great player of and transcriber of Art Tatum's music. You're going to hear that Hold That Tiger. He's also going to play the Masque from the Age of Anxiety, the solo version by Bernstein. He always plays contemporary music. In fact, he's recorded a tremendous amount of Ives. He's recorded many, many rare pieces, and I see that he's going to begin with a piece you may never have heard, and it's called Silver Spring, and it's by a man by the name of William Mason, the most important piano teacher at the turn of the century in America. In 1903, 1904, he was a Liszt student, and indeed Liszt liked him a lot. So he was one of the quite a few Americans that went to study with Franz Liszt in Weimar or Rome or Hungary. So you'll hear Silver Spring, and it's a beautifully laid out piece. And I think it's played wonderfully by Stephen Mayer, who I've heard play it. Now, the people I don't know are Gabriele Leopardi and Gesa Luecker, and I've seen them around, I've talked to them, I've kidded around with them, as is my wont, and they're going to be playing on two pianos a very important Messiaen work from the visions of God, of Amen, and it's the saints, the angels, and Oiseaux, the birds. And it's difficult ensembly, and it's difficult in every way, and I think that they're a great addition to the festival. And to complete the agenda, we're going to have Bizet's fantasy on themes of Carmen, and the guy that transcribed it is by the name of Mac Wilberg. Don't know who he is, but I heard it here in rehearsal, and it is a really great thing. 2 pianos, 8 hands, and Gabriele and Gesa and Claire and Eduard, who did such a great job last night in the Mozart concertos. And as he knows and I know, he's the greatest conductor in Alaska. And that's not funny. The Fairbanks Symphony is an extraordinarily good ensemble. I mean, a lot of people would like to have that job. I don't know how to conduct, but I would like to have that job. Anyway, we'll have Claire and Eduard and Gesa and Gabriele at the pianos, 4 hands each. And I think that we'll, as we always do, enjoy the work, the many arias and so forth of Carmen. When I begin listening to any of these arrangements by Carmen, I say, oh God, no, I can't bear it. I can't stand it. And then by the end, the melodies all capture me again. So I think that'll happen to all of us. Okay, I have a few more minutes, and you can get questions ready if you want. William Mason, though, is a composer that Mayer will play, and he has many salon pieces that were excellent. Mason, do you know that name, Mason? It goes all the way back to the beginnings of American music. For the first Mason wrote the hymn, I can't remember the name, but it is very well known. Then they had a Mason that made pianos, and you remember Mason and Hamlin, one of the great piano builders. They remain. They're still existing, and it's a fine piano. Now, in this Mason family, there was the most important of all. Although William had more students privately, didn't teach in a university, there was not that kind of thing at that time, but he made quite a fortune in New York teaching the piano. But the Mason that most intrigues me is Daniel Gregory Mason, born in 1873, so if we wanted to place him, he was born just at the same year as Rachmaninoff. Daniel Gregory is among those American conservative composers who are not audacious harmonically, but they are extraordinary musicians. Now, he was a very important Columbia University professor, and also Daniel Gregory Mason, and this is the part I'd like you to know, because you're not going to hear too much of his music, although he wrote a fabulous piece called A Lincoln Symphony. But you will love his books of criticism. There's about 9 books that are startling in their importance still. Daniel Gregory Mason. So we have here under Mason a much bigger family than we knew. Bernstein, of course, is the last of the great personalities in music, perhaps in anything. This was a man so large in life that I can't believe it. Give you an example of his humanity. When I wrote my first book, my editor said, "Is there any way you could get a blurb from Leonard Bernstein?" I said, "I don't know Leonard Bernstein. I know a few people that do, but I really could never ask him or write him even. I mean, who am I to him?" So a friend of mine who does know him said, "Well, I know Helen Coates, who was his piano teacher and then became his secretary. And indeed, he cared for her so much that he gave her his incredible apartment to live in at the Osborne." So I had it sent to Helen Coates. I said, if there's any way that the great maestro could read a moment of this and consider a blurb, I would be grateful forever. Nothing happened as I expected, and it goes on and on and on, and all the blurbs that was on that the book had were completed, and my editor said, "You know, Bernstein, of course, never came through." I said, "Well, of course not. I never expected that." 3 days before the deadline, I get a letter from Bernstein going through the book in detail, saying, "Use whatever you want of this letter." We had never met, and I had met so many people. I know that he knew who I was because once he told John Gruen, the critic, "You tell Dubal he does not play enough of my recordings through the night." And that, of course, tells you that every musician has to be aware of their career, or nothing will happen. You have to be on top of it, and Bernstein was on top of everything possible. Well, I couldn't believe it, and in this blurb, he said, "The true hero of Reflections from the Keyboard is Dubal, and he has made something of many parts into a real whole." Well, of course, my editor went crazy, and indeed we used that. So that was my 1 or 2 moments with Bernstein, and I treasure him. I've loved him as a conductor. Most of all, I love the fact that he must have smoked 5 packs of cigarettes a day, people told me, drank 4 bottles of scotch, and I can't imagine why he did not live till 95. He was one of the great conductors of the 20th century. He brought more music to the New York public than they had ever heard, from Nielsen Symphony, Sibelius, of course, Mahler, Beethoven. It was a musical mind of such penetration. He could play any piece on the piano. Someone said at a party, someone said, "I bet you don't know Ethel Burton Evans' Narcissus." Went to the piano, played it perfectly. Well, these geniuses come very seldom in the world. Liszt, Leonard Bernstein, myself. Now, what about Bizet? This drives me crazy. I can't bear anyone that dies too early. He died right after Carmen's failure at the Paris Opera, and I can't believe that this talent, this man who would have gone on for years, died at 38 years old after creating Carmen. Everything he wrote is wonderful. L'Arlésienne, the incidental music that he wrote, the Symphony in C, which he wrote at age 17, an exquisite and perfect little classical symphony. Even his piano music, such as the chromatic variations, although very austere, is quite masterful. He was a pianist of the first rank. And once at a party, I think you'll like this story, Franz Liszt was back in Paris, and Franz Liszt was at a party. And at that party was Bizet. And Bizet was renowned for his ability to sight read. Well, the greatest sight reader that ever lived, the greatest nervous system ever to play a piano, was Liszt. And Liszt had just completed in Paris a wonderful piece on Gounod's waltz from Faust. And the waltz is a 4-minute piece, but Liszt made a diabolical 9-minute transcription that is absolutely extraordinary. And someone knew at the party that Liszt had just completed it a few days before when he was living at his hotel. And someone said, "Oh, would you play it?" And Liszt said, "No, I don't want to play it, but is there anyone that could sight read?" Now, who's going to sight read the Faust fantasy of Liszt? Well, Bizet is there. Bizet says, "Well, let me look at it." He looks at it for a second, sits down, and he plays it so fabulously that the great Liszt afterwards said, "I can't believe what I have just heard." And with his typical charm said, "Only 2 men, I believed, could have done what you just did throughout Europe. My son-in-law, Hans van Bülow, and myself. And now I see there is you, Monsieur Bizet, and I believe that you played it better than either van Bülow or myself could have." Think of he was very, very young then, no more than, 30. So that was a wonderful moment, and I see I have another moment to go. Triana was also transcribed by Godowsky, who had to tamper with everything, but we're of course going to hear the original. Albeniz was, as I said, born in 1860. He was exploited badly by his father, who saw that he was a great talent, and he wanted to make money from this infant prodigy, who was not only composing, but playing quite well in public by 5. Well, by 13, he had been so exhausted from playing all over Spain that this young kid ran away from home, boarded a ship, and went to the New World. Got off in New York, went to Cuba, went to Costa Rica, went to the Dominican Republic, and played in every hellhole possible there, in every cafe, anything to stay away from Daddy. He got back to New York because it was found out that he was a young boy that should not have been doing this. And they got him back to New York, put him on the boat. He came back to Spain, and he stayed there for a year, but the government gave him a stipend, and he was off to the Leipzig Conservatory to study. He hated it there because he's the most interesting man. He refused to understand or want to learn anything in any traditional way, harmony or theory. He had to understand it through his own sense. And his great teacher later on, Pedro, didn't even attempt to teach him in any conventional way. But in Leipzig, he met someone that was wonderful. And who was it? It was Liszt again. And he played for Liszt, and Liszt gave him some advice. He did not study with Liszt, as some books say. And Liszt asked him very interesting questions. What about Spain? I haven't been there since the 1830s. Tell me about this. Always curious about the other person. He was crazy about Liszt, and that was an important moment for him. And of course, there is no Albeniz piano layout without all of the pioneering work of Franz Liszt. Who else is on this show? Well, Franz Liszt himself. He wrote a book later in life called The Gypsy in Music, and it has some very interesting things in it. Remember, they didn't know, as Bartók and Kodály would know, that the Magyar heritage was a large one extending to Turkey, Transylvania, and so forth, and the incredible amount of folk tunes that were collected. 6,000, by the way, the first great feat of ethnomusicology in the early 1900s by Bartók. So everyone had thought that the Hungarian dances of Brahms and the Hungarian rhapsodies of Liszt was authentic Hungarian music. No, by no means was it such. And it was gypsy music. Liszt was intrigued with so many things, and he loved the gypsies. He would go to the camps, he would give them cigars, money that he had on him, anything. And there was one that intrigued him so much that he took him back, a violinist, to Weimar, for he wanted to study the way he thought about music, because they did not read music. So this boy actually lived in Weimar with Liszt, imagine, for 1 year. What else do we have? Well, I could talk about Chopin until doomsday, but I'm going to tell you that he was born in 1810, the same year as Schumann, and he is and remains the poet of the piano. So we've gone through that. Scriabin yesterday, I'm certain every one of you were at the lecture. If not, I don't want to know you. We have time for 1/2 of a question. Give it to me. You see, the surprise element in life is what really tortures us. And that's all I have to say to you until tomorrow night. You are great.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Eduard Zilberkant. I'm here with Claire Huangci.
Hello.
And we just heard David Dubal do a pre-concert lecture on this evening's performance, which is a gala performance by the faculty, which is going to be a wide variety of repertoire, everything from Franz Liszt to Chopin to Scriabin and some Bizet and everything under the sun from Messiaen and other things. And we are at the 17th International Keyboard Institute and Festival at Hunter College here this year for the first time at K Playhouse. It's very exciting. We've just, again, completed 1 week, and we're about to start the second week of a lot of concerts. Some of the highlights of this week will be Arnaldo Cohen is going to come in and do a big recital, which will feature 4 scherzos of Chopin. Alexander Kobrin, winner of numerous prizes, including the gold medal at the Van Cliburn competition, will be performing a recital as well. And last, when we were talking to you before, we were discussing the whole idea of competitions, because there is going to be an international competition at the end of this festival for the young students who choose to participate in it. And both Claire and I have certainly had our shares of competitions, won some, lost some. And of course, a lot of the artists that you hear tonight are winners of some of these competitions. And
I honestly think probably every one of the faculty members, all of us have been to some international competitions. I've been reading in the bios.
Exactly. And it's the whole idea of competition. I mean, it's sort of unseemly that in the world of art that we have competitions. But as we were discussing, and I think it's very important, of what do competitions bring to, especially today, because there are lots of competitions. I mean, of course, there's some famous one like the Tchaikovsky and the Chopin and the Busoni, which Jerome Rose won gold medal in, the Van Cliburn, many of the others. But there are also a lot of lesser competition or smaller competitions. Now, the big competitions, obviously, if you can garner a gold medal in those competitions, they tend to catapult one's career.
Springboard. It's definitely a springboard. But I mean, at the same time, the difficult thing about competitions is it comes in a cycle. And after, 3 years or so, there's a new winner. And if you haven't really made your name as not just the competition winner, but as an artist of your own right, then there's a new winner and you're kind of replaced. It's like, basically, you really have to prove yourself, not just at the competition, but more so after the competition.
And I remember at one of the competitions that I attended, I remember the William Capell that used to be held, and Eugene Istomin, one of the great pianists, and he was the director of that particular competition. And when he came out to announce, I believe from the first round, some people, he says, to the winners, I congratulate you. To the losers, he says, to the losers, don't feel bad. To the winners, congratulations, but don't worry, in 4 years we'll have another one. so it's just one of these things, as Claire just mentioned, that there is a cycle that happens. But what is very important in competitions, and what I think is very important for students, those that are participating and trying to, again, catapult their careers, is the opportunity to walk out on international stage and perform.
And perform as the way you want to.
Exactly.
Not as the way you think people are looking for. I think if you're able to do that confidently, you're already like making big steps
Exactly.
as an artist.
There are some competitions, for example, the famous Chopin competition, that is geared only for the works of Chopin. Now,
Yes.
obviously, Chopin is about the only composer that can handle that because he composed
almost exclusively for the
for
piano.
the piano.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's such incredible variety that
Yeah.
the entire competition is divided into 4 rounds, which with works of just Chopin. In the Tchaikovsky competition, for example, it's a wide variety of repertoire, but you
Right.
have to play a couple of works of Tchaikovsky, especially
Yeah.
the piano concerto
for sure. The piano,
and things
but the
like
thing
that.
is, like concertos, like the Tchaikovsky, there's only 2, and sometimes one of them is really never played, and you end up only getting one of them in the finals. We just had the Tchaikovsky competition
Exactly.
this year.
Exactly. And I think actually this year, this time, for the first time in a long time,
Yes,
the second
there
concerto
was-
was played.
that's right,
The second
that's right.
concerto was also played. But in general, what competitions do, and a lot of the competitions, especially like this one, Mackenzie, that we will have at the end of this festival, it's an open program.
Yeah.
So it really does challenge, in some ways, the performer, the artist, to say, you pick what you play the best. So there's not a
It
limitation.
allows you, yes, to showcase what you want. And I mean, I think these are probably the best in a way. I
Exactly.
mean, sometimes when people are limited to certain repertoire, they're not able to really play their best works. And I mean, this is a place where everyone can feel confident to do
Yes.
their
And
best.
I remember there have been lots of competitions which sometimes require you must play a Bach and you must play 2 etudes and you must
Yeah.
play a classical sonata and all of that. Of course, those are all important and people will by themselves sometimes will do that. But if maybe etudes are not your forte and
Yeah,
maybe
it's a
Bach
pity.
is maybe not exactly where you're strongest at, it sometimes will eliminate you in the first rounds because that is sort of the standard bearer. But a lot of competitions have gone into directions of allowing the artists to really showcase themselves. They
Yeah.
could say, and again, in this particular festival where we're asking students to play hour and 20 minutes of music. So basically, if you think of a normal recital, New York
Yes.
recital that you would play, it's approximately an hour and 10 minutes of music. So this is a
Yeah.
little bit longer, and if we divide it into 3 rounds, which this competition is, there will be about 10 minutes, and again, you get to pick, sort of your piece that you want to start
Yes.
with, and you walk out on stage, and then the jury will fill in the blanks and see where they would like to go. And I think it's very important. Again, if the students use that opportunity, whether it be on this stage to play in a competition or as a big stage as the Chopin or the Tchaikovsky competition, to walk out on stage and do their absolute best in performance. I remember, Claire, you said the first time that it's sort of a concert on steroid. I mean, you have to, there's a lot of energy and it's very hard to come out because in a competition during the first round, for example, even if it's a 1-hour program or a 2-hour program, there are like 6 or 7 pianists that are all playing.
I mean, the thing is, I often feel when I used to be in the competitions, I always felt like just treat it as a concert. It's just a concert. At the same time, with people judging you, like giving you points, you feel this kind of anticipation which you would never feel for a concert. It's not exactly nervousness, but it adds it on a whole other dimension. And I think this kind of pressure, when you've gone through it, it helps a great deal. I do remember I was in the Queen Elizabeth competition in 2010, and this competition is really strenuous in terms of the requirements. You have to play 5 etudes and 5 different etudes. Like there's a Chopin, there's a Liszt, Debussy, and others as well. And they really, literally tell you about 20 minutes before you go on stage what they want to hear. And I think this adds almost this element of surprise. Is something that's really nerve-wracking. You're seeing the people before you. They're just waiting for their list, and you're waiting to play next. It's unreal, and I'm just.
But it is exciting, and one of the things that everybody has to understand is that as many times as we have winners, but I would almost venture to say how many of you might know great pianists, that you love great pianists, but they might not have won a top prize at a certain competition because, again, it's a subjective thing, and the most important is to play the best you can and to have opportunities and experience. And this is what this festival is all about. I mean, we are at the 17th International Keyboard Institute and Festival, and you're joining us here, and we're tonight here with the gala concert by the faculty, or some of the faculty, not all of the faculty. Some of them are playing evening concerts, and then this particular gala concert as well. But what you do get an opportunity to do is to work with artists, to have opportunity to play, to showcase yourself for your colleagues, a lot of other students who sometimes will be looking up to you and they want to see how, and it's a very supportive atmosphere. And if you walk out, because when somebody hears you on a New York stage or in any kind of competition, even if you might not win or something, but somebody say, I really like you, I'd like to invite you to come and play here, or why don't you play at this event? And isn't that what it's all about? I mean, the whole idea is for competition is to get you more concerts to play as best as possible.
Yeah, and I think in this place it's always very unique because New York City is, honestly speaking, the real metropolis in America and probably in the world also. Everyone always wants to talk about playing in Carnegie Hall. And I mean, New York has so many great halls, and I would say that the IKIF is one of them.
Exactly.
And everyone who has the chance to be in New York City, to experience the music, and to have the chance to play on a New York stage for the New York public is very lucky. So this is definitely a very special experience.
And for this year, we are at Hunter College, and we're at the K Playhouse, which is a really magnificent hall and a magnificent venue. And there's also a smaller venue, Lang Recital Hall, here at Hunter College, where a lot of the big master classes are taking place.
Daily
there are master classes.
Yes.
And it's in those halls that some of the competition is going to be taking place. And again, it's another stage, and there's audience present. There are people from all over the world here, not only students. There are 120 students who are here all over the world.
International.
But there are teachers, some of them come, and there's some people are here.
I mean, this festival is really renowned. I see posters for it throughout Europe as well. And I mean, if we just look at the students, there are students, they are speaking to me in German. I wouldn't have expected that. Students speaking to me all the time in Mandarin. And this is, you really feel like music is so universal in a festival like this.
Okay. And this evening we will have a really wonderful array, almost a collage type of a concert. It is sort of quasi a program, but we will begin with Dmitry Rachmanov playing some Scriabin selections, and then we have Nina Lelchuk playing some Chopin, some Mazurkas, some Nocturnes, and of course we have great affinity for both of those being in the Chopin competition. It's again, I don't think you would ever have a program without some Chopin.
Never have a piano festival, period, or piano recital without any Chopin.
Without Chopin of some sort, either an encore or some kind of a thing. Of course, we will have some Franz Liszt on the program. Mykola Suk, one of the great pianists from Ukrainian pianists, will be playing the 12th Hungarian Rhapsody. In the second half, we will have Jose Ramos Santana playing the Albeniz Iberia Book 2, I believe, with the famous Triana in that particular set, which is one of the most beautiful collection and very important compositions in the pianist repertoire from Spain. It's really wonderful. Then Stephen Mayer, who is a virtuoso in his own right, with playing combinations of, I think he has a solo version of Age of Anxiety, some numbers, and of course there's Mason, a piece of, he's an American composer from 1800s who has a piece, and then he is very famous, Stephen, for recording Tatum, and he's going to do one of the Tatum, I believe, transcriptions as well, so it's very exciting. Then we have Gesa Luecker and Gabriele Porati, a pianist from Europe. She's professor at Cologne Conservatory and chair of the department there, of the keyboard department, and Gabriele is professor in Dusseldorf at the Rubinstein Academy, and they will be doing a Messiaen piece for 2 pianos, and then Claire, you and I will join Gabriele and Gesa with a performance of Mac Wilberg's Fantasy on the Themes from Carmen.
Rousing finale. I think it's going to be downright thrilling.
Exactly. And of course, everybody loves Bizet's Carmen, and it uses themes from Carmen, from the famous Habanera.
There's so many transcriptions of Bizet's.
And this particular one is very, very unique.
Yep.
Well, I guess we are ready to begin this incredible gala. Thank you so much for joining me. I believe Jerry and I will be, Jerome Rose and I will be here for the intermission feature, and we look forward to seeing you there. I hope you enjoy the first half of the concert.
Yeah, enjoy it. Have a good evening.
My apologies to you. I'm not Yuan Shang, as you can see. As the director of the festival, my name is Jerome Rose, and I welcome you to this wonderful concert this evening. We've had a change of program. Mr. Shang has been unable to arrive from China. That is the bad news. The good news is one of the great Scriabin players of our time, Dmitry Rachmanov, not Rachmaninov, but Dmitry Rachmanov will be playing a wonderful group of pieces by Scriabin. Now, I don't expect you to write this down, but I will read them off because you will want to know what he's playing. Prelude in B major, opus 16, number 1. The Prelude in G sharp minor, opus 22, number 1. The Impromptu in B flat minor, opus 12, number 2. The Etude in F sharp, opus 42, number 3. The Etude in D sharp minor, opus 8, 12. I'm sure you have remembered every one of those. We are delighted that you are here, and we are delighted that Mr. Rachmanov will entertain you and play a magnificent group of pieces by Mr. Scriabin. It is his 100th anniversary, and we honor him. Thank you so much. Well, hello again. It's intermission time at the faculty concert of the International Keyboard Institute and Festival. My name is Jerome Rose, founder and director of the festival. And we've now heard a rousing performance by Mykola of the 12th Rhapsody of Franz Liszt. Previously, we had Dmitry Rachmanov playing some absolutely beautiful Scriabin, and Nina Lelchuk playing a whole medley of beautiful Chopin, Nocturnes, and Mazurkas. I'm sitting here this evening with my dear friend, and what can I say? I feel like he's an adopted son. We've known each other 30 years. He studied with me. He's gone on to become a magnificent conductor, great pianist. I'm with Eduard Zilberkant. He played a marvelous, didn't play, he actually conducted a marvelous concert last night of the Mozart Concerti with player Huangci and Massimiliano Ferrati, and a Haydn Concerto with Mattei Varga. It was such a phenomenal success. I'm just delighted. I could not let him go without having him part of this wonderful series of concerts that we're having here at the K Playhouse at Hunter College in New York. Eduard, welcome, and
thank you.
Tell me, how have you recovered now? I know you were teaching all day. You were a host at the beginning of this concert. You've been busy, busy. I think you should get a raise for everything that you've been doing. Yes.
Well, again, this is a very, very special event in general. This festival, I've been coming here for, I think, close to 10 years now, and it's always a highlight. It's a highlight of New York concert scene, to have all these pianists here, to have these wonderful students, to work with them every year, and just bestow some knowledge. It's really thrilling because, as you know, we learn a lot from our students, and it's always wonderful to hear incredible talent, and then of course to work with all the colleagues and to refresh friendships and make new ones.
Well, it's 125 students are here from all over the world.
Exactly. It really is a spectacular event, which is one of a kind in New York.
And now, as you know, we're sitting here with these hot lights on us. We're being streamed all over the world. And it's the most exciting thing. It's going to be, I hope for posterity. I hope 100 years from now they'll be watching us. What can I tell you?
Exactly. I mean, it is a unique opportunity. And again, we're in this beautiful venue for the first time at Hunter College at K Playhouse. And it's, again, we get to hear every night a different recital, a different concert by magnificent artists from all over the world. But this particular evening's concert is a highlight of all the great teachers that we have at this festival, who are all fantastic artists in their own right, and not only great pedagogues, because students from all over the world come to study with them.
I would say the Moscow Conservatory has been strongly represented in this first half of this concert. Dmitry, I'm not sure whether he worked at certainly a Russian pianist, but certainly Nina Lelchuk worked at Moscow Conservatory, and so did Mykola was a pupil of Vlasenko. He's very close to Vlasenko. Exactly. It's a fantastic representation. I was very excited about the old world style, this grand manner. It was phenomenal that he was representing. I'm hoping that the people that are looking at us now will certainly tune into the first half of this program, because it was certainly a mixture of styles and personalities, which I think is really what's wonderful about this festival.
Exactly.
I really would like to talk about you, because you've been interviewing everybody else, and now it's time for me. I would like to exalt you to this whole audience around the world, because you are a brilliant conductor. You conducted 3 Mozart Concerti yesterday, and you've conducted operas. You've conducted ballet. You just came from San Carlo in Naples, and tell me the work that you conducted there.
Well, this was my second trip to Teatro San Carlo, one of the premier opera houses in Italy, in Naples. And they invited me for their orchestra series, and I did an incredible piece by Villa-Lobos called Discovery of Brazil. And it's for choir and orchestra. It's a tremendously large, huge work, and it was very exciting. It was a first-time performance for Teatro San Carlo.
Sounds terribly nationalistic. Did it have a lot of Brazilian melodies? I assume so.
Oh, it's absolutely incredible, and it has an enormous percussion section. And it was an incredible, I guess, Brazilian contingency in Naples, because both concerts were sold out and just really tremendously well received.
Are there that many Brazilians in Naples? That's a big question.
They were obviously obviously were at the concert, whoever was there. But
well, that's fantastic.
It was very, very exciting.
But I remember you were the year before, so you were invited, and they just couldn't put all the pieces together, and you had to do what symphony? You had a wonderful symphony in the place of the Villa-Lobos.
The original of a few years ago when I was invited, they invited me to do this again, but because of logistics, they invited me to do the Beethoven Eroica, which of course was
not a bad substitute.
Absolutely.
And I myself, after winning the Bozzoni competition, my first concert in Italy at that time was actually in San Carlo in Naples, which is a fantastic.
It is a magnificent
theater.
opera house.
It's a magnificent opera house.
And it's the oldest opera house in the world, built in 1738, and it really is absolutely. It's a little bit larger than La Scala, but just absolutely. Again, with gold and royal boxes and everything, it is just such an exciting feeling to walk out, and it's a magnificent orchestra.
It was built for the Kingdom of Sicily, you know, the two Sicilies, and Naples, and of course Italy was not united at the time. So all these wonderful city-states were outdoing each other in terms of their opera houses. It's a wonderful thing. And now I know you're located in Alaska, and I feel somewhat responsible for that because at the time there was a very minor job that was offered, and I said, look, any job at this time is well worth it, but you've turned this into a gold mine for yourself and for the orchestra and for the cultural life of Alaska. Tell me about this.
Well, University of Alaska Fairbanks had a piano position open, and I auditioned for it, and I got it, and I came there, and there were some tremendous, great colleagues there. I was immediately a member of the Alaska Piano Trio, and I had an opportunity to do that. And then an opportunity came up to first conduct the youth orchestra, Fairbanks Youth Symphony, and then a position opened up at the Fairbanks Symphony, and they saw what I was doing with the kids and things like that, and they invited me to take over the orchestra, and for the past 15 years I've been the music director and conductor.
You've done marvelous things. I know you brought the entire orchestra to the Far East this year.
Exactly.
Tell me about that tour.
The Gumi International Music Festival, they invited me first last year by myself to come, and I conducted the orchestra there, and it's again a festival similar to this. A lot of guest artists appear and things like that, and they liked it so much that they invited me back, and they asked if I could bring the Fairbanks Symphony along.
Well, one of the nice things is what people know who fly a lot, you're already halfway closer to Korea than anybody on the mainland of the United States.
It's true, except there's no direct
flights. It used to be the stop. Everybody would stop in Fairbanks,
exactly.
where you are already. Yes. Everybody would have to stop there and refuel. Yes. But it's wonderful that you have this opportunity.
Exactly. And Fairbanks Symphony is a magnificent orchestra, and we're doing a lot of great things. This year, Alexander Coburn, who will be featured next week in concert here, we are recording both Brahms piano concertos together with him. He's going to be playing both of them, and he has an opportunity to record them, and Yamaha is going to be doing a lot to help with this particular project. It's a really incredible opportunity. So, like I said, we've taken the orchestra not only to Far East, but also to Greece and many other places, and we do national tours, international tours, so it's
one
of
the nice things, as you say, he'll be featured later this week, and one of the things that's going to be taking place on Wednesday night is Arnaldo Cohn will be playing, and I'm hoping that I will interview myself, Arnaldo Cohn, and Alexander Coburn, because the three of us all won the first prize in the Bozzoni competition. Yes. I think one of the few opportunities when we will all appear on camera at the same time. We're also three of us actually going to be on the jury at the end of August for the Bozzoni competition, so it will be a very exciting event. I'm ecstatic because all these wonderful pianists are able to come here and they're able to play. They love the teaching. The students certainly have incredible opportunity. And you, of course, are wearing so many hats because you conducted the premiere of the Jägermeister's Kammer Orchestra, the chamber orchestra last night, and then of course you're doing so much teaching. You are also a wonderful chamber musician. Tell me about all the things that you're doing with Zul Bailey and the Sitka Festival.
Yes, well obviously everybody knows the famous Sitka Music Festival, Chamber Music Festival, and Paul Rosenthal, who has been a long-time director of that festival, and he and I have performed many times together under different auspices. And when he retired from being the director, Zul Bailey, a magnificent cellist,
he's very famous and one of America's finest cellists.
Exactly, one of the great cellists, and he and I have performed numerous times together, and he's now sort of a feature in Alaska because of the Sitka Music Festival. And when he comes to Alaska, he and I perform all over, and he's invited me a couple of times, both to Sitka and around the state we've played. And I know he's coming not next season, but the season after that. We're doing a concert together, and we've performed Beethoven Triple together with Paul Rosenthal and I. And
well, you've done all these things, of course. You're a Leonard Bernstein type because obviously you speak marvelously about music. You explain music beautifully. You're a wonderful teacher, a wonderful chamber music player. Well, how about being a composer so that you'll fill in all the gaps of the Bernstein personality? Have you done that too?
Only for the Mozart cadenzas.
Only for the Mozart cadenzas.
I have composed Mozart cadenzas that
How
every
wonderful.
concerto that I've played, I've written cadenzas for those. But I've sort of leaving the great masters. I've also arranged the Rachmanov sonata that in the style of Vladimir Horowitz, the two versions people
You put
obviously
the two
know,
versions
1913.
together, yes. Well, you've
and
also
31.
recorded that. I mean,
Exactly, that's one of my recordings.
it's. I remember when the piece was rarely played, and now it's played all the time now by practically everybody. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, which I think is part of this festival, part of the Keyboard Institute, is where did you come from, and what kind of training did you have prior to the time that you actually came to me when you were in your late teens? I believe you came to me.
Yes. Well, I was born in Russia, in Volgograd.
Yes.
For those people that know World War II history, it used to be Stalingrad, but
Yes.
Volgograd. And I started piano when I was 3. I entered the music school when I was 6, and then
Tell me about your
performed.
parents. What was their relationship to your learning the piano?
My father was a pianist. He was a trained pianist as a young man, but then World War II broke out and he could not continue that career. My mother was a singer, so my father had a lot of influence in me starting to play piano at first. And then I had a wonderful teacher in Russia, Irina Petrovna Penyaeva, at the school. Then my parents, of course, with their visionaries, decided it was not a good time to be in Russia and immigrated.
As I said to you, no Russian school. I said, I dropped so many quarters on my hands. Don't tell me there's no Russian. I could be rich today with all those quarters I dropped.
Exactly.
Learning how to play the piano, drawing with my thumb, moving my thumb under without this sort of pearl touch that you had absolutely constant evenness of tone and evenness of touch in any kind of scales. And even I was trained by one of the Petrograd Conservatory very early age, and I had that development of technique as well. But it's been a wonderful, tell me you ended
So
up.
then it came to the United States, came to Atlanta, Georgia, was discovered sort of by Robert Shaw, the famous conductor.
Yes, well, I knew
who really
you were
took
very
me under
close.
his.
You were very close to Shaw.
Exactly,
I know that.
and he basically took me under his wing. He took me to Brevard Music Center, to Interlaken. He invited me to play with the orchestra many times. I played over 25 times with the Atlanta Symphony.
I have to move forward because I want to know, when did stick fever? Stick fever is for those of you who don't know, it's when somebody says, I've got to be a conductor. So they fall in love with the stick and they give up their instruments. So when did this? I know you haven't given up the piano, but when did you really develop your persona as a conductor?
Well, I've always loved conducting. I always went to the concert. Of course, Robert Shaw had a lot to do with it. But in schools, when I was at University of Michigan, where we met originally, I would always sit in on Gustav Meyer's master classes. I was good friends with Yakov Kreitzberg, the late conductor who just passed away. And he was a student there at the time, and we were very close. I would come to all the rehearsals of orchestras.
Well, one of the things, of course, as what you realize, and of course, and part of your playing is you are an orchestral pianist.
Exactly.
You really use all 88 instruments of the piano when you play, and you understand that instrument so well. And that's that's why I admire you so much, and so many of the students admire what you're able to give them, because you do treat the piano as an orchestral instrument, and you say that, as I say, you have 10 fingers and 88 instruments.
Exactly.
And how do you orchestrate this instrument? So this is one of the things that I value so much in your teaching and of course in your playing. But it's very, very important. We are absolutely delighted that you are here, and I say, I feel like a proud papa sitting next to you.
Well, I owe a lot to you with everything that we've done, and again, all the training that I've done with you, and then eventually in Germany.
Well,
it's
wonderful to see you prosper and going on all over the world, and it's a marvelous thing that you have become such an important conductor. And I'm very happy that we have you here at the K Playhouse, and hopefully have you back.
Thank you.
And this is a wonderful chamber orchestra that you created, and it's going to be a very exciting experience in the future. I'm sure that your conducting career will blossom as it has all over the world.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Edward, for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
In the program, instead of Almeria, I'll play Evocation from the first piece. Thank you.